We've talked a lot about tutors that I hate. Let's talk about a tutor that I love. Who else but Sir Thomas Cranmer? You want to talk about a somewhat ride or die, but by Tudor courtly standards, a ride or die gentleman, this is as close as you're going to get. For the uninitiated, Sir Thomas Cranmer here was the Archbishop of Canterbury. Okay, very, very big religious title, very, very important, very prestigious. And he got this title during the rise of Anne Boleyn because as Henry was done with Catherine and he was ready, he had already married Anne in secret, she was pregnant, and he needed to be able to make her literally an anointed queen, and Thomas Cranmer was how he did that. They made him the Archbishop of Canterbury so that he could basically help push things through the church that they were separating from, set up this new church in England, and help Anne Boleyn become the queen. And Thomas Cranmer did this because, like Anne Boleyn, he was a huge reformer. He was one of the foundational members, like the charter members of the English Reformation. He had spent a lot of time in the Low Countries and the Netherlands where this kind of new religion, Protestantism, was spreading, and he was a humanist. Again, he believed in serving the people, and he believed that as a godly person, it was his responsibility to take care of the least of people in order for him to be redeemed. So selfishly, he took care of lesser people so that he could be redeemed. It was good enough. And during the fall of Anne Boleyn, he was one of the only people who stepped back for a time and went, I don't know about this. This is I don't know. In writings that they found from him in modern times, I believe he was basically saying, I just don't know, because I've known her to be nothing but a pious woman, like a woman of the reform, and these stories don't fit with what I know. Personal writings, probably not anything he said to the king. But he also came to visit Anne in her final moments. They sent him as basically like her chaplain. She had Matthew Parker, but there was also Thomas Cranmer, who she was close personal friends with. And he basically came to tell her all the terrible stuff that was happening. And she said, am I going to go to a nunnery? And they had told him that that might be what's happening. And he assured her that he would certainly ask and he would work in her favor. And this was just a horrible, unfortunate thing. He was kind to her in the end. And after speaking to her, confessed that he still had like moral squabbles. He basically wasn't at ease with the accusations. He said they didn't track. But of course, his biggest achievement was helping to write the Book of Common Prayer. Like I said, Thomas Cranmer was a huge hand person behind the English Reformation, and he helped to draft the first English Book of Common Prayer, which was all about putting the words of God into the hands of the people so that they could have a personal relationship with God. But that didn't go great for Thomas Cranmer. It did for a little bit. But ultimately, he was martyred by Mary because basically once Mary got to the throne, she was like, oh, you supported Anne Boleyn, you're dead. You supported Anne Boleyn, you're dead. And also, it was religious, right? She hated Protestants. She hated the Reform. But yes, I know martyrdom's crazy, but this is also one of the reasons why I love him, because his martyrdom story, shortly before he was martyred, burned at the stake, murdered, he had been forced to sign a statement saying that the Reformation was wrong, Protestantism was wrong, and Catholic and the Pope and Rome were like the head of the church and yada, yada, yada. He basically had to recant all of his moral values and beliefs. So when he went to the stake, he allegedly stuck his hand into the fire first and screamed that he was burning the hand that had betrayed him and God and yada, yada, yada. How badass is that? Anyway, I just kind of respect someone who is this dedicated to their moral convictions, and also someone who tried to stand by Anne Boleyn at the end, because he did. And his doubts are like written down. And he tried to look after Elizabeth in some ways, distanced to the best of his ability because of his respect for Anne Boleyn, who he did still talk about with respect after her death, which wouldn't track if the stories were true, would it? Anyway, to a tutor I don't hate.